What's up? Ryan K and Sarah Montana here, and we recorded this epic first run how to use ChatGPT as a real estate agent webinar. It went 2 hours because I'm kind of long-winded.
A little bit.
So we cut it into two sections. This section you're about to watch is the full philosophical section.
The framework behind how we go about marketing and how we think about just our marketing in general.
So you're not going to see ChatGPT in this first hour because we're going to unpack how we think about marketing, how we pick our targets, and honestly, how we unpack and prepare to use ChatGPT, how we get our backstory.
Because that's what's so important about ChatGPT is putting in the right information so that you get a quality output. So it might seem like we're veering off into left field, but it really does make sense.
Right.
So if you have the time to watch both, we highly recommend it. But the second part is where we kind of get into the nuts and bolts.
So if you end up jumping over because you're afraid you're going to be sad if it's not just straight up ChatGPT all the time, you can jump over and watch the second one. But trust me, coming back to this one will make the results you get 10 times better as far as quality of content goes. So check it out. It's about ready to start.
See you.
Obviously, a lot of the people that are joining this group are part of my Facebook group that is our new agent tips and tricks. Should we give a little bit of background?
Sure.
My name's Sarah Montana. For those of you that don't know me, I have been in real estate for, almost a decade. Do investing in real estate. And I've grown a large team. I've been an associate broker at a brokerage. I've owned my own brokerage. And I've also sold real estate in my hometown where I knew everyone and I had a family name and I kind of had that circle of influence that I could kind of rely on. And then I've also come into a brand new community where I did not know a single person in the middle of COVID. And I had to expand out and learn how to do marketing and actually go out and learn how to sell to strangers because I wasn't going out and selling to my friends and family. And I met Ryan here a few months into that process. And he's definitely changed the way that I envision just how I run my business and the way that I go about marketing to people and the way that I create content. And so, part of today, we're going to show you some things that we've been practicing for the last couple of months. I know that artificial intelligence and AI and ChatGPT is all over the internet. I don't know if it's just my feed or if it's everyone's feeds, but you will hear about it sooner than later, and it is going to revolutionize the market.
If we take a minute as we get started, jump back over to the chat. This is recorded, so if you have to bail out or anything like that, let me just double check and make sure we are recording. All right, jump in the chat. Here's what I want to know. I want to know if you've never heard of ChatGPT, put never. If you've heard of it but not used it, put heard of it. If you've used it, put used. And if you think you're hardcore expert, you can put expert. So jump over to the chat. I want to hear kind of where we feel like we're at in this thing. So what we're going to talk about tonight, if you've been to anybody who's taught you ChatGPT, that kind of stuff, we're not just going to talk about prompts. So for a lot of people, that's where it begins. And that's actually one of the biggest problems when it comes to creating content. Sarah will tell you that so my background, I actually come from, I was an accountant. I started a tech company about, 18 years ago, built a hiring software company, built a email marketing company. So I am more of a thought leadership, value-based marketer, not a salesperson. My goal is not to cold call. My goal is not for my team to cold call. My previous company that I just left 6 months ago, 280 employees, 10,000 companies, no cold calls. And that was part of the goal. So if you want a cold call, I can show you how to use ChatGPT to cold call. But our goal tonight, before we get into the how to use the AI, is to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish with it. Because I know it may seem like, oh, I have a problem, creating videos, or I don't know how to create content, or, hey, could you just provide me with some prompts to use? And while that might get you jump-started, you're going to fall short, or more importantly, you're going to sound like everybody else. That's number one. And number two, which you might think is good, but you will sound like a pushy salesperson with commission breath to your actual prospects. And that's probably the best way to think about it. Like Sarah is a phenomenal real estate agent, and I am her number one customer as far as buying and selling properties. And she'll tell you, I detest real estate agents, salespeople, the sales tactics, that pushiness. And so just as we're getting into it, that was a lot of the friction between us of, hey, it's cool. You could be a sales rep and you could push that, but that's kind of the go-to.
Yeah, I think it's so common. That is like everyone's vision, that, hardcore prospector is the vision of the standard of a real estate agent. And, so often in our group, everyone says like, oh, I need help with lead generation. I need help with lead generation. But they focus so much on what we like to call the bottom of the funnel. They want to have those conversations of, yes, I want you to list my house, or, hey, I need to go and buy a house. And they forget the fact that in order to truly be able to help people through that funnel, we need to start a little bit higher in it. We need to give value and share information for the people that are not right at that buying process. And I know that as I shifted my marketing and I shifted the way that I approached it, very much in like an abundance of, hey, like, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. I'm here to give information. I'm here to share knowledge. When I change that perspective and I stop that, like, I need you to go, and I need that sale, it transformed my business.
Right. And I think if you, at least from an outsider, and I think a lot of real estate agents are technically outsiders. If you haven't been in the world for more than a year, you end up with these two kind of camps. You end up with the people who've been successful, and they will tell you, well, I deal mostly with referrals, right? And then you end up with the new people who either you've got to have this massive network of people who already know you, like you're a known quantity in town, you have the right name, you blah, 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 or you're going to have to go about prospecting. And so you go to somebody as a new agent or a struggling agent, and you say, hey, I need to figure out how to sell more homes. If you are, or, listing, I don't care, whatever it is, if you're somebody with a huge network and you go talk to them, they're going to be like, oh, I don't know, it was super easy. Everybody just knows me. Okay, that's really hard to replicate. I have the right name in town.
Or they'll say, well, it's just a numbers game. You need to put in the reps. You need to make the number of calls. You need to knock so many doors. And that's kind of daunting when that is your only way of going out to acquire new business, and you don't have a way that you can pull a lever to get more people into your business.
So we're going to kind of start, the first half of this is going to be a little bit of niche segment marketing 101. And the reason why is because if we don't set up the process and our mentality and our paradigm ahead of time, then we're going to fall short in the end. And this is really what it is. AI is not going to do this for you. And that is not the goal of AI, doing it for you, meaning you press one button and it gives you everything. And here's the reason why. You live in a world where pretty much anybody could become a real estate agent if they would sit through the class and take the test. Okay, anybody. That means you have no differentiation. It's very easy. There's what we call a low barrier to entry. Anybody can jump in here. Now, if you take the default approach, which is, hey, I wish there was just a button or a template I could just borrow. Yeah, you're right. So could the other, 1,600 real estate agents here in St. George, Utah, 150,000 people, 1,600 real estate agents. And what, like 400 houses on there?
So there's 4 real estate agents for every house for sale.
Okay, so all of those people can do that easy stuff and will take the easy path. And while it might have worked for the first one, it won't work for the 8th one who tries the same message, the same approach to the same group. And so we want to make sure, I don't want to say, okay, this is going to be hard, but literally, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to put in some effort. Number 2 is AI is like hiring an employee. It's the best way I want you to think about it. AI is not coming to do it for you. AI is coming to do it with you. It's like hiring an assistant. We've all had assistants, I'm guessing, before. And my guess is most of us have had really bad experience with them. So imagine if you get an assistant to come and help you. They show up on the first day of work, no matter how much experience they've had doing other stuff. And you literally just say, hey, I want you to go and create a marketing piece targeting home sellers. And that's all you gave them. Now, even if they're great, the likelihood that they come back with what you were expecting is extremely low. You ask them a vague request, you're going to get back a random answer. You may get lucky and it might be awesome. You also might get unlucky and it might be terrible. But I can tell you the one thing that it most likely won't be is predictable. And so when it comes to like running a business or doing marketing or creating content, when I hire somebody to work with me, my number one goal is that their response is predictable. I can predict when I ask them a question or ask them to do something that I get back what I was hoping for. And so when you think about a human interaction, while AI might be the smartest assistant you've ever had, all of that knowledge it has means it's got too much knowledge. If I throw open the encyclopedia, for those of us who are old and understand that reference, if I throw it open to a random page, while there is information on it, the likelihood that that information fits the situation is almost zero. And so that's the way to think about AI. You've got the smartest assistant on earth that's so damn smart that they have every encyclopedia in the world in their head. Therefore, if I ask a vague random request, I'm going to get back vague random answers. And that's not the goal. So when you think about ChatGPT, I can tell you while our approach is going to be, and Sarah will tell you, I'm crazy picky about quality of content. It is not about speed unless you maintain or increase quality. I'm looking for speed and quality at the same time, not speed at the expense of quality and not quality at the expense of speed. But if I had to choose, I will always choose quality content over fast content, always. And so as you're getting into this and just because you came to this webinar, your Facebook ad feed is going to be full of buy my ChatGPT prompts, show up to my ChatGPT training. Just understand if you buy those lists of prompts, that would be the same list of prompts that all your competitors have. If you just log into ChatGPT and throw the prompt, it's basically going to give you the same feedback and the same content as everybody else, which means you're going to sound like everybody else.
With that being said, though, as far as ChatGPT, just so that you can kind of like let down your guard here a little bit, like we want to be transparent. So ChatGPT right now is free. So you can go, we are not affiliated with, this is not like a sponsored thing. We're not trying to sell you something. And at the end of this, there's not some like sales pitch of, oh my gosh, do this and you'll like be a millionaire real estate agent. Like this is literally just giving you value. We're kind of pulling back the curtain. And honestly, like it's kind of been one of those things of like, do we share this information with everyone? Because it is kind of amazing what you can do, but we think that it's an amazing tool. And if used correctly, it will really help grow your business.
And to be honest, like ChatGPT has been around for months. Jasper, or it was Jarvis, then it became Jasper, is an AI writing assistant targeted towards marketers, has been around for years. Like 2 years, that one's been around. So this isn't like ChatGPT is this brand new thing that's never been tried. In fact, Jasper or Jarvis, I believe, is running on their API. It's just instead of very scripted approaches that Jasper was running, ChatGPT is an open chat box. Ask it anything, it will give you anything. And that's not exactly the best scenario if you're not an expert at knowing how to ask it stuff. And so that's really the way to think about it. So if you've ever used ChatGPT or if you've ever heard of somebody who's used it, most of the feedback I hear is, well, it's not that good. The content wasn't that great. I could clearly tell it was written by a robot.
Or I put it into, they have like AI detections right now. And if you ask it a very generic question or you put crap in, you're going to get crap out. And a lot of times you'll put that into an AI detector and it'll say 90%, yes, this was created by a robot essentially. And I know for me personally, like I'm not quite as picky as him, but I don't want to be putting out content and sharing information. It's not just like, oh, I need to post another video or, oh, I need to create another blog or I need to send another email. I genuinely want to be helping my customers or my potential customers and be sharing information that is helpful to them, not just like, oh my gosh, pick me, I'm a real estate agent.
And when we jump into the ChatGPT portion, I'll actually feed it what I believe the average real estate agent would feed it. And you'll get back pretty much what you hear on Facebook all day long. Oh my gosh, I'm a new real estate agent. I just got my license. Send me your referrals. Can you imagine, just for a minute, if a brand new accountant said, I just got my tax license, send me everybody that has complicated tax returns, tell your friends to come to me I want them to be my first one. Just take a minute, think about it. Like,
I
think
could
about
do
even
my
the
first
haircutting
brain
school, right?
surgery. I'm so excited.
How many of you guys have gone to the haircutting school where you get a cheap haircut by somebody just learning? Now think about that. The downside is you're out $8. Your hair will most likely, unless you have hair like mine, grow back. Okay. But selling a house or doing your taxes or setting up a business, we're talking about a big deal. I don't trust supposedly my house is supposed to be my biggest asset. I don't trust my biggest asset to some brand new person. And the more valuable my house is, and the more mature I am as not just an adult in age, but in financial literacy and that kind of stuff, the less likely I am to grab some random person off the street and say, oh, I'm so glad that you're a new real estate agent. Here, take my baby and figure out how to make me money. But if you look, a lot of times in ChatGPT, real estate agents are going to say, I'm a new real estate agent. Give me some Facebook post to post. And what it's going to give you back is, so if you assume that for the past 20 years on the internet, that the approach has been right, it's going to give you back the approach, and it's going to assume that's the best practice because it's the most used practice. That doesn't mean it's actually the best quality practice. It doesn't mean it's the most effective. It just means it's been done the most.
So if we were wanting to go and create a door hanger campaign, and you've been seeing forever, like, hey, I am a real estate agent, but I'm also your neighbor, and you were asking ChatGPT, create the copy for a door hanger campaign, telling the people in my area that I'm a real estate and also their neighbor. It's going to do a great job of doing just that.
And if you show it to other real estate agents, they're going to go, oh yeah, this looks like our best practice. Those people are not your target. So let's start with that one right here. No real estate agent is your actual target customer. We get that? You're not the target. Sarah is not the target customer. I am. I'm not a real estate agent. If I had my real estate license, I would be a terrible client because I just do it myself. So this is our first problem set. We live in an echo chamber of a bunch of agents who are not our customer. What they believe is the right thing to do or wrong thing to do is their opinion not being our customer. Number two, we live in an echo chamber full of our competitors. There is no way on earth they're going to tell you their best content secret because they literally compete with you. And so those are the two parts that make this a little bit difficult when you think about it, is that you're in this echo chamber. And so part of, as we jump into kind of marketing 101 on this, is picking a niche and taking time to listen with the intent to understand. That one right there is probably the biggest problem for the average salesperson. Can you ask a question? When you hear back, oh my gosh, this might be a prospect. Holy shit. Like, oh my gosh, like they want to sell their house. Can you literally stop and still just listen?
What is the objection going to be so that I can overcome it?
Are you preparing to answer? Are you preparing to inject? Are you actually listening and listening to the pain? And when they say their pain, do you actually accept that that is their reality? Therefore, we need to not just overcome it, but accept it as valid pain. And so as we get into some of that stuff, I just want, so that we kind of have a bar to measure us on, I'm going to see if I can fire up my sharing really quick.
Go ahead and give us some love in the comments here. Just say like a hell yes or heck yes if this is resonating with you, if you feel like you're at least getting some good value here. We're going to dig into the meat of this. We promised, as we said this, that this is not just going to be us chatting. We're going to actually dig in and show you exactly what to do, how to change your business and the way that you create content and the way that you interact. I feel like what we've shared so far hopefully has opened your eyes a little bit and been helpful. And we're
probably the biggest question right as we jump in, the biggest question that we get is, why would you teach us this for free? So kind of knocking that down. I know Sarah has done some coaching. That's not our rev model. It's not our business model. We don't sell software per se. We call it agent advisor. Effectively, we're a middleman that says, hey, dear agent, if you're trying to do this thing, here's some software you might want to check out. We run a newsletter and a blog. We make our money off of advertisements on the blog, not by charging agents for what we do. And that's why, if you want to know, why are you here doing this for free? Well, we just have to build, just like as we get into talking about building a sphere of influence, You're our sphere of influence. And the way that we build a sphere of influence and trust and credibility is by giving value for free.
We're practicing what we preach.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we're suggesting as we go through this is exactly the same thing we're suggesting to you. We've spent tons of time talking to real estate agents. Clearly, Sarah has the inside the track knowledge. And I have talked to everybody from but what if she's totally wrong? Or what if they're not like her? What if it's something else? What if a real estate agent isn't the amazing networker like Sarah is here and is really an introvert?
And what's cool about that is that you can actually use ChatGPT to, one of the things that we've found as we've started working with agents and we're trying to like help them build their businesses is that we're not all the same. Like you might have that like extroverted personality and that's who we see in the media and things like that. But you might not know about the super introverted, email marketer over here that's crushing it in real estate, but just because they don't have their, video camera out and they're like doing Facebook Lives all the time, you don't know that they're kicking your ass.
Yeah.
As far as sales go.
Thinking about Facebook Live as a good example, or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever, just one more thing to keep in mind. When a real estate agent puts out a viral video and it gets viewed by 10,000 people, that might just be 10,000 real estate agents. It might just be 10,000 real estate agents out of our town. And the real answer there being, it might be 9,999 people who are not their target customer. And that right there is part of the problem with, say, social media is a good example. You can't tell who's liking that story. What if they're all non-customers?
Yeah.
Then you just have, we call this a vanity metric. It means the metric is vanity. It makes me feel good that I got all those followers or visitors or likes or whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't turn into a true metric, i.e. listing presentations, listings that are set up, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is kind of the key here to think about, is that I would tell you that the most successful people in real estate in marketing are most likely not the people you think it is in your town.
Loudest.
They're not the loudest. They're not the most aggressive. They're probably not the ones with the most followers even. And that causes a rift.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, if you say, well, I can't just manufacture a network. If I don't have the right name, I can't manufacture it. I don't want to just cold call the whole place. So I look over here and see who appears to be crushing it based off of their followers. And yet, if I actually went and looked, I'd see that they didn't have any listings or almost no closings or something like that. And so this is the one thing as we kind of jump into this to keep in mind, is that the end goal is actually to build strangers into connections who trust you enough to have you sell their house or help you buy a house. Strangers, not friends and family, but strangers. And the reason why not friends and family is those people are the easy, low-hanging fruit. That does not grow your company. So my story, just so everybody knows, in the software world, 10 years in a row on the Inc. 5000 list, B2B marketing, strangers into buyers. That is really my goal. Strangers into buyers. I can take a random group of 10,000 strangers. I can get their email address. I can send them emails like we're friends and make them my friends and turn them into buyers. That right there, regardless of what business you run, whether you're an accountant or a real estate agent, or whether you're a auto repair shop or whatever, you, while talking to your friends and family, like the MLM model, sit down, write down the 3 people you know, they're going to find 3 people and they're going to find 3 people. It sounds super cool. It sounds super sexy, but that means you're going to go and attack your friends. That literally, and you're going to run out of friends who want to hear about how you're a real estate agent, and they're going to get tired of hearing the same thing. True value in growth of company comes in convincing strangers to become buyers or sellers. So we're going to kind of talk through that. One thing as we start off the bat, there's this little ChatGPT warning here. There is a ton of negativity in the press about ChatGPT, and here's what we have to think about. There's a difference between school and work. In school, we are taught that cheating is wrong, that copying is wrong, that like borrowing somebody else's research is wrong, because the goal of school is for us to learn how to think and provide original thought. That is not how the business world works. In the business world, we actually use best practice. We borrow people's templates, we tweak and we adjust.
Borrowing brilliance.
Yeah, we borrow brilliance. There's a book on it. But that right there of understanding is probably one of the first problems with ChatGPT is all the negativity has to do with what the schools are saying about it. But here's the deal, like going to school and the skills learned in high school do not make you a great business leader. In fact, what makes me great at business is I was constantly hacking the system to get me the grades that my mom wanted to see for the least amount of effort, not the most amount of effort. And when you get into the business world, that's actually called efficient and effective, right? And so, but this kind of like instant feedback, we as humans are freaked out by AI, that it's going to replace our jobs, that it's going to become our girlfriend, it's going to manipulate us into nuking each other, like whatever the case may be. So that's our first problem set. We have to get our paradigm right. It's not evil, just like hiring an assistant and buying somebody's templates and adjusting them is not evil. And that's our first way to think about it. Hiring a marketing agency, not evil. Therefore, using an AI writer, same thing.
Work smarter, not
Borrowing
smarter.
somebody's template, not evil. Adjusting it for our own stuff, just like using ChatGPT and the knowledge base that's in there to create something, not evil. The second part is the way you're thinking about it. The AI is there as your helper. It's not there to do your job for you, just like your assistant isn't. And if you'll keep that in mind of, this is just like an assistant, I'm going to get out of it what I put into it.
Yes.
That right there, not just the prompt, like how much you invest in time of learning how to manipulate it, how you learn how to work with it, how you learn how to feed it backstory and feed it knowledge and feed it, and then pull that knowledge back. The more I invest, Sarah's probably, I mean, we're both each probably hundreds
of
like
hours.
probably between us about 1,000 hours of ChatGPT. I'm not making that up. Like I'm 30, 40 hours a week, every week, plus a team of people that I teach how to use ChatGPT.
Yes.
Like significant amount of time in the product, not
in the relationship. Again, it's like you're almost like building this relationship bank account with your AI, because if you will invest the time and energy, and again, our goal with this webinar is to leapfrog you ahead and save you guys the hundreds of hours that we've already put into it. But the more that you put into it, you're going to realize how much more beneficial the relationship can be.
So we think, you call it sphere of influence, right? This is our goal. We want to have a giant database, of prospective buyers that we're engaging with. If you think about, I have my own friends and family, and we try to kick that off and expand from there, that's kind of the default. Or you have straight up like, we're going to cold call or door knock, and we're going to use that. Let's talk about why people don't like cold calling and door knocking, especially if you are a female real estate agent. And I'm going to tell you the secret behind why you don't like it is the same reason why it's not very effective at starting relationships. And here's the reason why. When I come and knock your door, very much like cold calling you, I am entering your space uninvited. My goal when you answer the door is to change the subject away from whatever you were doing to a subject I want to talk about. If you put those together, that sounds like the most aggressive lack of like social awareness ever. I'm going to step into your space, into your home, demand to change the subject matter right now. No matter what you give me, I've got a whole bunch of ways to like
overcome the objection.
Overcome all the objectives, but I was not invited. And so the reason why we a lot of times don't want to prospect is we say, I hate it when people do that to me. Why would I want to do it to them? It's inherent in human nature that we actually believe in the golden rule. Yeah. Stuff I hate having done to me, I hate doing to people. And I don't know, and maybe there's somebody here who will say, hell yes, they love being cold called. Sarah does. Sarah loves being cold called by what is it?
Vacation timeshares.
Vacation timeshares.
If anyone wants to go on a vacation, just let me know. Like, send me an email, shoot me a text. I can get you a killer deal on a timeshare as long as you'll listen to a presentation.
So our goal here is to take this group here, which we will call the strangers. And we want to turn them into our sphere of influence, which we might call connections. But in here, we need an invite. And that's probably the best way to think about it. I'm not looking to invite myself to the party. I want an invite. And the more that I look at, and you'll say, well, that's impossible. Why would they be doing it? I'll give you some different ideas of it. But our entire goal is to create enough value here that somebody will want to invite us into their problem. And so that's the way we think about it. We want them to invite us. The best advice comes, and that we trusted the most, is from people we ask for advice, not people who are giving it without us asking. We want this invite. And so that is like marketing 101 versus sales. Like thought leadership and problem-based marketing is, I want to create enough value from a distance in a relationship that makes you trust me, so you'll invite me into your problem, into your journey that you're on. Not invite me like, hey, I want you to list my house. That's not what we're talking about here. That comes later. We're saying, I want you to invite me into your problem. Your problem is, I'm getting old. I'm going to move to a nursing home. I need to get rid of my house so I can move there. That's your problem. I want to be invited into that problem. When I'm invited into it as a, hey, what do you think, Sarah? What are my options? Will you guide me? You're not the hero. I'm the hero because I'm the one on the journey as the customer. You're Yoda and I'm Luke Skywalker. You're there to guide me in this journey, not to be the hero. And that's a hard thing from an ego standpoint to say, I'm just here to assist you. It actually, I think, is part of the reason. So Sarah made this shift probably maybe a year and a half ago from dressed up name tag, rolling into stuff to pickleball Sarah showing up to listing appointments. Pickleball Sarah is somebody who just got done playing pickleball, right?
Very authentic. Yeah. Like, not that there's anything wrong with being professional, but I have just decided that I am me, like 100% of the time, and like, if that means that I need to go and show up to my client after I've been out doing something and I'm at pickleball or whatever, that like my clients are there because of me, not because of what I'm wearing or what car I drive or whatever.
So let's think about that as a good example. What would the other agents in your office think of that approach?
That I was being unprofessional.
That I was being unprofessional. In their opinion, as not my buyer or seller, they believe it's wrong. But that doesn't mean me as a tech guy, this is like dressed up. If I get dressed up from here, it's a hoodie, right? Like literally, like most people are not dressed up like that. Therefore, your customer has a different opinion. So this is our next part. When it comes to creating this sphere, we really have a few options here. We can buy it. And you buy a sphere by buying a giant list. That doesn't mean that you actually have credibility with them. You still have to either grow or hope, or you could call bully. That's probably where a lot of salespeople who think they're doing marketing, they're just bullying me into like submission. That's not the goal here. Our goal is to grow our relationship with, so there's nothing wrong with, say, buying a list of for sale by owners. No problem with that at all. The problem is if you cold call that list of for sale by owners without doing anything at all, and you're call them up and you're like, you're never going to sell that house, doing it for sale by owner, I would get you more money for it. You're giving them the same pitch as literally every other agent, the same exact pitch. Right. And so in that instance, I have no differentiation and I have not grown the relationship. I assume that they're sitting there going, you know, I put a for sale by owner sign in front of my house in hopes that it would help me find an agent. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. I put the for sale by owner sign out in front of my house to say, dear agents, call me because I was too lazy to look you up on the internet. I just figured I'd just throw a sign out front. Think about that for a minute. That is how the for sale by owner people feel. That's why half the for sale by owner signs say no agents.
Freaking call me.
Right. And so when you think about that as the example, the reason why stepping in and calling their phone number is showing up uninvited to their space, their phone, demanding to change the subject away from what their journey is and they're trying to accomplish to, you should list with me. That is not a win for them. In fact, for sale by owner is our best example. Literally, they're doing it to save money. You telling them they need to list with you costs them money.
It's a loser.
Now, I'm not saying that there's not the right way to do this, but I'm saying that concept or that assumption, and it comes back to what we call the relationship bank account. So we assume, and this comes from Stephen Covey, that we are making deposits and we are making withdrawals. Now, here's the first failed assumption. Most of us believe that everything is positive. If I show up on the internet and say, I'm a brand new real estate agent, send me a referral, we're making an ask, That's assuming that there's value out there, that I've deposited money to withdraw. You haven't deposited literally any value. And so if you show up at the bank on the very first day and you're like, hi, my name's Sarah, I'm here to set up a bank account, BT Dubs, I want $10,000 out, can I take a withdrawal? They're going to say no, like you're at zero and that withdrawal will make you overdrawn or negative. This right here is like concept 101 in building relationships and networking is I cannot make a withdrawal without having made deposits. I cannot withdraw more than I have deposited. More than I've deposited. Like period, full stop. And so what actually happens is that most real estate agents think that they're starting out in here, when in actuality, on the very first thing they do, they go negative with 90% of their audience. Just straight up, they go negative. They say the same thing they've heard from everywhere else. They say something that's very self-serving. Even though they might like clean up the text to make it sound like, oh, I'm your neighbor and I can also sell your house like I wanted somebody to sell it. That would only be a deposit if I'd been sitting around wondering if I could find a real estate agent. But since I'm not, saying that you can do that is not a deposit, it's a withdrawal before there's any positive. And so here's kind of the way we think about making these deposits and withdrawals. The first one is connection. We have to take strangers and connect with strangers. When you connect with a stranger, it is not by saying, oh my gosh, my name's Ryan, let me tell you everything about me. That's not how you connect with a stranger. The way you connect with another human is you ask them questions about themselves, their favorite subject, and you act like you give a shit about their answers. That is relationship 101 when you're beginning. Ask questions. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? What brought you here?
It works for dating too.
It works for dating. It works for making friends in high school. Listen with the intent of understanding and validate that you're listening. Nowhere in that will a sales pitch show you listened or validate. Nowhere in there will pulling out the normal objection overcome thing validate that. It is very much, I need to ask you questions. I need to actually wait. I'm actually better off waiting for you to ask me what I do, because that gets back to the invite. So if we look at, say, the way that we would do normal networking, if you watch the way Sarah networks, who's like the queen powerhouse of networking, she connects with strangers. Oh my gosh, I love your shirt. Oh my gosh, I love your blouse. Oh my gosh, how was skiing today? We connected with a pair today up snowboarding. Like, they didn't know anything you did. They didn't know anything I did. Deep into the conversation, we knew all kinds of stuff about them because we were asking questions, listening, stating things back in a way that was, oh, you get it. You're adding value to this conversation. Next up, guiding. When I know that I understand the problem that you're facing or the journey you're on, my goal, my number one goal, is to make a huge deposit. This comes from the book, Love is the Killer app.
Great book.
The way I make deposits, I'm either going to refer you to information or to somebody who can help you. Refer, not refer like because I get a commission. Straight up just refer. Oh, you should go check out this book. Oh my gosh, you should go check out this website. Hey, you should check out this podcast.
That actually worked. I got the phone number, took a picture with the people, and sent them a link to a webinar.
Right?
About something that they cared about.
That they cared about, right? And so this right here, this guide, I'm going to connect them to something valuable that gets them to be a lead. And to me, a lead is just like somebody who, when I talk to them, when I send them a text or an email, thinks that we're friends, not instantly guard up. All she is a salesperson. What does she want to sell me? That part right here of saying, when I reach out to those people,
they don't get that feeling.
This like this asking questions. When I ask questions, it's a deposit. When I restate, it's a deposit. When I validate, it's a deposit. When I refer you to something where clearly I have nothing but like I'm just giving value. Oh, you should go talk to so-and-so. They're awesome. I'm making these deposits. And so our goal is that with each of we might start with this with like individual people just to kind of spec it out, that we're like, our goal is to make a bunch of, these are T accounts for those of you that are not in the accounting world. Debits on the right, credits on the left, right? When we sum it up, it gives us, do we have a positive balance or a negative balance? Our goal is to build up, make deposits with a whole bunch of people out there. Now, I might also come up this to a niche standpoint and say, instead of just the sum of all of this becomes my niche value. Have I built up credibility in my niche? That right there is my goal. That's marketing 101 for me, especially in the B2B world. I want to have a handful of niches where I've created a whole bunch of positive value in there, in that niche. Think of it as thought leadership. Think of it as expert status. Think of it as anything along those lines that I've built up positivity in the niche by showing I know what I'm talking about, giving knowledge away for free, adding value at every chance, referring people, so that people would come to me and say, look, I don't actually know what you do, but you seem like the smartest person I know about this situation. I have a problem with it. What should I do?
I would love to hear your guys' feedback about, like, if you just take a little bit of a self-assessment on what you're doing right now, like what you're doing that right now that's working. Like, do you feel like you are adding value? Do you feel like you are making a deposit or a withdrawal? And then what's working with you? So give us some messages in the comments here. Let us know what you're currently doing. And, again, how this kind of, if we're resonating with you, if you feel like you've learned something about how to approach when you're going to start creating content and sharing information with your potential customers.
You can throw that in the chat. We'll jump down, and this is what we call the buyer's journey. This is the journey that I go from being aware, maybe we should sell our house, maybe we should buy a house, all the way down to, oh, I'm actually interested, I'm looking at renting or buying, all the way down to I've actually want to go look at 3 houses, right? This right here is where the MLS comes in, all the way down here. I'm literally looking at houses. There's nothing wrong with these people at the bottom of the funnel. They are a high percentage, a high quality lead. They're highly likely to close if you get them. They're also the most competitive. And they're also, the trick to these guys is owning listings, having a whole lot of listing. When they're down here at the bottom, the problem is there's a whole bunch of people up here that are slowly progressing down. And my question is, are you making deposits up here, or are you assuming that you're just waiting for them to get down here where they run a search for a house, and that you're going to then be there and have credibility? And that really is, when you think about most marketing, most salesy marketing, most door hangers, most postcards that you see, most posts on social media, it is very much, if you're looking to sell your house, I'm your girl, right? That is, if you are down here picking an agent, you should pick me for no other reason than I said I'm an agent. Or if you're looking to buy a house, you went out and searched. If I'm lucky enough to have the most listings, you're going to talk to me. But that means chicken and egg. If you have no listings, you get no leads. And so while these are the easiest to convert, they're also the smallest number of them and the most competitive deals. So when you're new to a market, when you aren't the biggest name, the biggest brand, having the biggest money, most money in marketing is spent down here, attracting the bottom of the funnel, because it's the easiest to show the return on investment for. It's very hard to show return on investment as spending money in the top of the funnel. But this up here, this is where the cash is at long term. This is where you build an engine that becomes something that feeds you leads over and over again, is up here in the top. Now, why did we spend so much time talking about this? It's really quite simple, is that the way that you move somebody down from one step to the next is an equation. It's, do I know your pain? Do I have a solution? And can I get you to see it, to read it? That's literally the equation for it. Do I know your pain? Can I send you information and that sounds like a viable solution with credibility behind it? And can I get it in front of you where you'll read it, not from I stuffed it in your face, but from I'm actually interested. I feel like this person may have some value for me. That, and this part right here all comes down to this concept of content, right? All right, so deposits. So if we think about kind of running around when we drill down a little bit more on this, we come down to this concept of the challenge story and the success story. This is how we actually build a marketing engine. We pick a target. Now, let's start by talking about targets. A target niche is not buyers and sellers, okay? That is not a target niche. Buyers and sellers, we buy and then we sell. Buying and selling is simply a point in the constant cycle of our relationship with where we live. We are constantly going from buy to sell to buy to sell to buy to sell to buy to sell. That's not a niche. That may be a target where you're saying, hey, usually people are entering my world as buyers or sellers. That's totally fine. But just saying I work with buyers, I work with sellers, pretty much every real estate agent on earth in the last 5 years has wanted to work with sellers because it was the easiest, because there was a shortage of houses, right? And so you're like, oh yeah, I just work with people who want to sell their house. Cool. Who? What type of seller are you actually targeting? Very specifically. And so this part right here, and the reason why this is so important is if you say, you know, sellers have a pain. What's their pain? They need to sell their house. That's a very vague thing. If I went to ChatGPT and I said, write me up some marketing content to explain to sellers about, you know, a marketing piece about selling their home, there's a huge difference between somebody who is, if we think about it this way, there's a huge difference between the pain of selling your home as a luxury homeowner versus as a mobile homeowner. Very different pain. If you think about it this way, this would be our reason. There's very different reasons for selling your home. Am I moving out of town or am I moving across town? Is it because we just had a kid and we need more space? Is it because our kids just left and we need less space? Like the reasons and the money gives you more targeting to say, okay, now we can actually start to segment our target audience. So for instance, I'm moving to town. Sarah does amazing work with people moving to St. George, Utah, but people moving to town is still not a narrow enough niche. You have people moving to town because they love to vacation here. That's different than I just got a job here.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why those differences matter is this pain, we'll call this the trigger. We want to get all the way up in the top of that funnel is the trigger. What caused you to decide or to need
Or to think about.
To think about it. What was the cause? So
It wasn't, oh my gosh, I want to buy a house in St. George, Utah. It was, oh, I think I need to get an upgrade in pay. Maybe I should look for other opportunities.
Right.
That is the actual need of the client. So we want to be able to explain the pain of the customer better than they can.
And we're going as early in the trigger as possible. So the trigger would be, for instance, I could give you triggers for Sarah's clients. I was here in town passing through playing pickleball. That the trigger was, I was here, that's my situation. And the trigger was, I said, man, this place is amazing. It's 60 degrees outside in the middle of winter. That triggered me to think, could we move here? That was the trigger.
But you don't need to be looking at listings right now.
No, yeah, like I'm still deciding whether we want to move there. I don't know what area of town. Now that's going to give us all of these pains or all of these questions that they're going to have. And it looks kind of like, I think I've got this one right here. So if we think about the way that we create these segments, we're starting with, okay, is it a geographic location? Meaning I'm trying to move to an area or I'm trying to leave an area. Is it like, what's the triggering event? What is their end goal? Hey, I want to transition to a bigger house, right? I want to transition to a smaller house. Like what is the end goal? What am I trying to accomplish? But this life status normally has to do with the trigger. The cool thing about focusing on the life status is that's where we actually make human connection.
So are they having a baby? Are they getting married? Are they getting divorced? Are they moving away to college? Did they get a new job? So those are the types of things we're talking about, a triggering life status event.
Those life status events also give you the ability to make true connections and make referrals to knowledge or people without having to try to close.
Like that sounds terrible, but saying, hey, like, oh, I went through a divorce and I moved to a new town where I literally did not know a single person. And I had to put 3 children into a brand new school in a neighborhood and into a church and into a school system that I knew nothing about. I had to get all new doctors. I had to get new orthodontists and I had to make all new friends. That is a very specific person that I can talk to very authentically. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you actually went through, but if you can put yourself in the shoes of those people and imagine what it is that they're worried about. I was not worried about what type of house I was buying. I was worried about whether or not my kids were going to have someone in the neighborhood that they could talk to and be a friend with.
Yeah, your questions are, where's the nicest house, the questions become, where's a good school near a church, where there's kids around my kids' age, where they play pickleball or where they play basketball, or like those are very early questions. Those are very top of funnel questions. And so when we think about this customer profile, this job to be done, this is, I have a pain and I'm trying to solve it, but that pain is not sell my house. That is a bottom thing. This is, I need to move. Why do you need to move? To get a bigger house, because I need more space. In order to do that, I will need to sell my house. You see, selling the house wasn't the problem. The problem was I need to get more space by moving. That was the actual job to be done. I was looking for certain gains, bigger space. I was looking to reduce some pains. Over here, our product or service, and this is where you think, well, I'm a real estate agent, right? No, that's not really the way that Sarah works. It's more of, I'm a local guide.
Actually, I'm a local guide. I'm a
local
Google
Google guide,
I'm a Google guide.
right?
It's kind of a big deal.
And so I'm a local guide here. That's awesome. Like my product or service is connecting you with information to help you solve your problem. I just happen to also buy and sell homes. I just happen to also do that, but I'm going to help you solve this problem, help you identify how to get the gains you want, help you identify how to get the pains that you want to relieve, regardless of whether I help you buy or sell a home.
It's not transactional.
Yeah, it's not transactional. Those deposits are not, I do this so I get it back. And that mentality wise is a hard thing to overcome. What you hear all the time is, what you're saying is I'm going to work for free. That's our big one, right?
Yes.
That is an employee mindset and you are no longer an employee. I have to work for free. Yeah. That's called an investment in your business and your asset. I would do a whole lot of work for free building software before anybody pays me for it. My first customer gives me $100 a month and I just spent 50 grand building the software. It is not transactional. And so that is kind of the way that we're getting our mindset. So our goal then becomes to guide them in this journey. And so if we take somebody who's like, I'm moving to town because I like the outdoors, you're like, all right, interesting. This is a journey we're going to go on. Down here is actually buying a house. But up in here might be like, where is like cool stuff to do? Where are the best hiking trails, mountain biking trails? And as you come around here, might be like, where's a great place from a like, I want to live like, so it's like I'm in the outdoors. Where's the right area of town where I have the closest stuff to my cool stuff? It's not until all the way down here that I'm like starting to think about, oh, I also work, like I need to know where there's great internet. And right now, because of inflation in St. George, Utah, I want to know where there's low power costs because crossing the river in St. George, Utah drops your power bill in half. These are all questions before I'm actually saying, I want to look at some houses. So think about this as, who are they asking these questions to? My goal is for them to ask me the questions and for me to give them the answers to those questions to make these deposits as we're going along. But this right here is a good example where if I don't know how to feed ChatGPT, my target is X, I help them with Y. Can you help me create some content around it? If I had said, I help buyers buy homes, can you create me content around it? That content, it will give you back what you asked for.
It'll do exactly
Unfortunately,
what you
it's actually not what your target audience asked for. So as we go through these types of content, just understand content to us is all kind of the same. The goal of content is to identify a pain, to explain it in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, you're reading my mind, to agitate that pain, which has to do with, oh yeah, it sucks bad, right? Right. And this normally has to do with talking about the impact of the pain, not the disease, but the symptom. What are those impacts? Well, we have to move. Why do you have to move? Because we got to go across town and there's all these different impacts of it. I got to find a different school and blah, 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 blah. Right here, I'm going to get to the point where I have some type of a solution to these problems, but that solution is not, I'll help you sell your house. Down here is the actual, I can represent you, okay? We haven't got down to buy or sell yet. We're still up in the solution and these are the steps. This is the type of info you need. This part up here is where everybody short circuits.
Yeah.
They jump right into, do you need to buy or sell a house? I'm your girl.
Write
Without-
me an ad of, how to sell a house in Southern Utah.
Yep. And so that, as we look at AI, and so this is where what most people see, this is our kind of our process that we go through in feeding AI. These are the actual deposits that I'm making in my AI login.
To be able to build that relationship.
Right. I'm feeding it the backstory. My name is Ryan. This is what I do. This is who I help. My target. This is who my target is. And that target is not buyers and sellers. It's very, very specific, right? Here's my story of who I am. Here's who I help. Here's what I help them with. My goal is to do something. And here's the context. This is our backstory. This is what we know about the situation, about what's going on, about what they're facing. Before I actually give it a prompt that says, write me a script for a YouTube video. Now, if I jumped right here and said, write me a script for a YouTube video, I'm a real estate agent helping people sell their home, I'm going to get a very bottom of funnel script because I didn't feed it. My name's Ryan. I focus on these types of clients. I help these types of people. You're looking at your watch. I scheduled this for 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's an hour and a half. Right?
I know we're an hour
Right.
in and we haven't actually opened up
No.
ChatGPT, but hopefully you'll realize that we are obviously passionate about this because we can't not talk about it first, but context matters. That's what the whole point of our.
All right. I hope that you enjoyed that first hour of our webinar. That was, like I said, more of our strategy session about how to think about marketing, how to think about content, how to kind of get your focus, your niche, your backstory, all that kind of stuff. And so at this point, you can now watch the next session. The next session is where we actually jump into ChatGPT and create some content right there on the fly. Really show you what prompts we use and how we use all of this backstory to feed into it.
This is a lot more hands-on. We hope you enjoyed the marketing, backstory part of this, but this is where we get into the nuts and bolts of it. I hope you guys enjoy.